Hello, everybody. I'm Peter Grant with Zaner Metals. Welcome to This Week in Metals. Peter Thomas is here.
Hey,
What do you
hey.
What do you know, my friend?
Not what I know is I know I've forgotten way too much. That's what I know.
Hey, we're going to do something a little different this week. We're going to
Ah,
start with silver because
oh, okay.
it was a crazy week last week,
Ooh, yes.
to be sure. So silver ended up 6% last week. It
Yeah.
was the second consecutive higher weekly close. What made silver particularly unique, I thought, was I think we're all familiar at this point with what's going on in the Reddits, and they're hunting down short positions and trying to
Actually,
blow them out.
I'm not that familiar with it. I mean, to me, was kind of surprising, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, so just in a nutshell,
Yeah.
some of the subreddits were looking for opportunities to blow out big short positions.
Oh, okay.
GameStop was one, AMC was
So yeah, I
another.
saw the
Another,
action in the regular market and not
yeah,
over in the real market where there's physical product. But
yeah,
I
and
was I
so
was
the
surprised.
the, the
Yeah.
subreddit in question um, took notice of silver because
Oh,
it
my
is
baby.
it is one of the biggest, concentrated short positions.
It
I,
is.
I think in all
Yeah.
the markets is
I think in
probably in
all
the
of them.
silver
Yeah,
market. Um,
absolutely.
uh, the report from the previous week was that the eight biggest shorts in the silver market were short about north of 400 million ounces.
So we're talking institutions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as the silver, the possibility of a short squeeze in silver got bandied about, silver obviously rallied pretty significantly. It set a 3 week high at 27.65 before moderating a little bit late in the week. The early January high at 27.92 remains intact at this point. And then, we've been talking about $30. 29.84 is
Well,
the high of the move so
well,
far.
Pete,
But
look, we've been talking about $30 since the beginning of this year, beginning of last year, really. And our followers on the podcast hopefully have been able to enjoy that uh, prediction because that's what it was. I mean, we are guessing when we look at the charts, but it's definitely above $30 now, and I'm going to tell you guys why. We at ZanerPreciousMetals.com sell metal, and right now the premium on physical is $5. So silver is trading over $30, and that's a fact. And I've seen Eagles offered at 32 and $33 in silver. So we're well through $30, and the question is, where do we go now?
yeah, premiums jumped on
Yep,
Silver Eagles in particular, jumped 50 cents last week, which is a pretty hefty jump.
it's going to
Um,
jump $1 next week.
if if they really and truly put the squeeze
Hmm.
on these silver shorts, you know, I think it could be 10 or $12 higher
Okay,
when all is said and done. But you're the guy that was there in the pit and took
that's true.
silver from $4 to $50. Does
Yeah,
this
it
does
was
this
it was a
smell?
run. I'll take a second. I got to tell you, it was like being in a beehive when you would walk in the morning and you put on your trading coat and you walk in and there would be the press and they cameras and they'd be shoving a microphone in your face. What do you think? I haven't looked at my deck yet. Let me get into the floor, okay? And you'd get through the crowd and the buzz. If you could see the crowd in the background here, that's what it was like standing around a guy who was holding paper. And I would look around and you could just hear it was just electric, and the feeling was just incredible. And you'd be going through your orders, and they'd be, where are we opening? Where are we posting? Where are we going to be? And it was absolutely electrifying. And the market moves were like this. They were just so violent. It would be I'm at 5. A guy would be I'm at 9. You'd go, what? You can't trade through me on the floor. What are you talking about? The guy would go, how many you got? They bid it up to 9. And it was so radical. The NFA actually had auditors right in the pit to make sure there was no hanky panky going on, which was good. I mean, it was nice to see that Fed was making sure it was orderly. The press was there watching everything that was going on, and it was rocking. And I remember I had like 15 or 20 positions on for myself, and market moved against me. And I'll tell you what, it was like somebody threw a bucket of gasoline on me. I was just like, whoa, you could smell the flesh burning. I was like, oh my God, your life passes in front of your eyes. And fortunately I was able to trade out of it, but I was like, oh my God. I'll tell you something. This move is different. And I'll tell you in a couple different ways. One, the institutions have the same amount of juice, power they had, but the speculators got the same amount of juice they never had before. All these guys sitting at home for the last year, and women too, because believe me, I know some great female traders. I've been looking at screens like Schwab screen, for example. You can put up a stock you're watching, do an overlay, pull a Fibonacci up, put indicators on, put stops where you want them, all of this. And they're learning how to do this. They're self-taught, and they have buttons they click, and they can go to classes while they're in there. The public is educated now, and they've been getting educated for the last couple of years. And now when that green light goes on and they go, oh, GLD, oh, that's gold. Okay, yeah, I would own some gold. And then they look and they go into the chat rooms, everybody's going, yeah, I own some. Why don't you? And so what's happening is the onesie twosie trader has now got margin, which they never had before. So he comes in and he bought, let's say he bought some Apple at 50 and he's now at 200, and a guy's got 25, $50,000 of disposable income, which he can margin up to 100 grand. And he goes, I'll buy some silver. I'm good. All of a sudden, the guys that are on the other side of him are getting this wave of individuals that are coming in bidding, and they're not bidding a little bit. They're bidding hard, and they don't have enough juice to stop these guys. And if the public still has that little green light in the upper right-hand side, the institutions and the public are going to be slugging it out. And I tell you what, I got a feeling the public's going to win this one.
It's interesting that so they're using these chat rooms and stuff to kind of
Yes, right.
coordinate amongst themselves,
Oh, that's cool.
and it's powerful. And what
Yeah.
what what is really great about it is this is exactly what the institutions used to do for sure,
Oh, oh
and
no.
and and probably still do.
I will not. I do not agree. Where's my
Well,
lawyer?
Well, there have been plenty of cases that have been litigated already that it's
That
obvious
they
that
have lost.
they
Yeah.
were coordinating positions on going back to the back pages of Telerate, back in the back in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
exchanging messages.
The old tapes, the old ticker tapes that actually came off with the quotes were
Yeah.
supposedly manipulated at some point. So I'm not going to argue with you.
No, so it's I think it's interesting, and it's been fun to
Yeah,
watch, and
but
you
I
got to
think
be
it
on the
was
right
fun to
side of the
mention.
market.
I think just for people to get the feel of the energy, the excitement, the flow. It was something. I mean, and on a physical side, I represented a silver refiner, and I filled paper for the hunts. So I kind of had my finger on the physical pulse and on the speculative pulse, and it was just palms in. It didn't matter. How many can I buy? Not what's available. Just how many. I got an order in. It was as large as the open interest one time from the Hudson. I got on the phone with them. I said, "Are you crazy? Like,
Let's average in.
yeah, right." I was like, "Come on, man! Like,
You're
you
gonna you're
can't
gonna
do
you're gonna
this,
move the thing $4
Yeah,
with your opening order.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
but the thing is that the important thing for you guys to understand is that you're getting a multiplier here. A guy comes in at 22 on margin and buys $100,000 worth of silver. He's now got $300,000, and he says to himself, well, "I'll put another 100 grand in." You know, now all of a sudden it's 28, 29. Now he could put another 200 grand in, right? So this thing is just like a big white shark, and it's going to start feeding if it keeps running, and it's going to be very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, if it gets above 28, I think it's a quick run back up to 30,
Oh yeah,
and if the squeeze is well and truly on,
yeah,
it can
which we
go
don't know.
substantially higher for sure.
Right. When you have, just so you guys know, when on the floor, if you had a position over what was referred to as a limit position, you're only allowed to hold so many positions. Otherwise, it's considered market manipulation. You buy so many, you have the potential to move the market. So the Fed would come and you would have to go fill out a form and declare your outright position and file it with them. I'd love to get my hands on that one.
Right.
I'd like to see what some of the positions really are because I have a feeling they're enormous.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's seems pretty obvious. Um, let's move back to gold.
Sure, absolutely.
Gold was actually a little bit lower. I mean, it caught a little benefit from silver,
Right.
but when silver backed off a little bit later in the week, I'm sorry, gold actually ended up down 0.4%.
Okay.
It was confined to the previous week's range, so we had an inside week. It's generally consolidative. Um, the World Gold Council came out with their
Yeah.
Q4 demand trends.
Right.
So this is stuff that we've been talking about for a year now, since kind of the beginning of the COVID crisis.
When we did our COVID crisis
Yeah,
special with Dr. An, who's the virologist from Singapore. He's a
yeah,
great guy. Yeah.
yeah. So in 2020, gold demand was down 14%.
Wow.
The takeaway from that is, look at the price.
Yeah.
It is amazing that the price has been so resilient in the face
Mhm.
of such significant demand destruction. Most of that came from jewelry. Jewelry
Yeah.
demand was down 34% in 2020, driven largely by lockdowns, economic weakness, and the high price of gold.
Yeah.
The demand just wasn't there. That weakness in jewelry demand was offset by ETF inflows.
That's correct.
ETF inflows, and even though we saw outflows in Q4 of 2020, the record inflows were 877.1 tons.
Tons. Yeah.
Yeah, and they
And
also
and
mentioned that they thought that demand in the OTC market was very robust, but it wasn't a segment that their data covered. But we had a record year last year.
I'll tell you what, I would not be surprised in the OTC if we saw this year, if we keep this trend up, if we saw $20 trillion of gold change hands in trades. I
Yeah,
would not be surprised.
yeah.
I mean, we're running around 12 and a half to 15. I think we're going to 20. Also, I'm glad you mentioned that report. Horaeus came out with their forecast too, and they have a great report. What did they have to say?
Yeah, they're bullish on gold.
Yeah,
They expect new all-time highs in 2021,
there
and
you
they
go.
and they expect silver to outperform.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that.
So do we. So
And we've been expecting that for a year, so I think we
yeah,
gotta beat him to the punch there, you know?
yeah. Let's touch on a couple more things in the World Gold Council report.
Yeah,
Bar and coin demand was only up 3%, 896.1 tons. So kind of weak, and I think that sort of plays into the COVID theme as well.
yes, it does,
That
it
a
does.
lot of that those types of transactions, happen in brick and mortar coin shops.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of it is transitioned online, but a lot of people like to buy their metal face to
they like to
face.
go into the shops. I talked to a guy yesterday morning at around 10 o'clock, and I called him, and he says, "Pete, I can't talk to you. I got 9 people in the store." He says, "Normally, the place is empty at this time." He goes, "I'll talk to you later." So,
Yeah,
that silver bug is people are running into these local stores trying to find some product.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's driving premium appreciation as well
absolutely.
as supplies get scarcer because of that
Yeah.
demand.
We're
Central bank.
trying, guys. We're trying to get as much metal in as we can. We know a lot of people are already putting up, You won't see your coins for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We're starting to see those little headers in the sales. We know everybody in the industry. Usually, we could find product, and so stick with us. If it gets to where there is just none, obviously we're not going to have any, but we're going to keep trying.
Yeah. So central bank gold demand in 2020 slowed pretty dramatically. It was actually down 59% to 272.9 metric tons. We did see an uptick in the fourth quarter. So maybe as COVID winds down a little bit, knock on wood, that we see the central banks, ramping up their gold purchases as well. Typically, that's out of dollars and into gold is sort of the general theme in those movements in reserves. And the dollar, does remain weak.
The
We're in kind
dollar
of
has
a
remained weak. It's true.
yeah, we're in a kind of a weak corrective phase right now, but I'm not impressed. So
Well, I got to tell you something. I know from personal experience on Friday, they bumped me for my COVID shot and they said, we don't have any vaccine, none. And so welcome to Chicago. But, I'm hearing from a number of people that were scheduled, that's, they just said, 1 or 2 more weeks, don't worry. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
don't
don't
worry.
worry.
Yeah, don't die between now and then. We'll get you covered.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. So that's my that's my piece on gold. Do you have anything else on
Sure.
the yellow metal?
No, I mean, you covered the two biggest reports. I think it's important that, we know that there is potential to go higher according to them. And we concur. Why
Yeah,
don't we move into the PGMs? Because
yeah.
there's been a lot of action in platinum, palladium too,
Yeah, so platinum was down 2.5% last week. Again,
right?
we've talked about it for a couple weeks now. It doesn't seem to like the 11 handle.
You called it months ago. And it kind of gets a rash when it gets up there. And I don't know, we're looking at a supposed surplus of 1.5 million ounces. That's definitely, I believe, what's putting a lot of pressure on it. Anglo Platinum said that they're still producing. Car consumption is going to be about 6.3 million ounces. I mean, I don't know. It looks to me like it's going to continue to have pressure at that level, Pete. For a
Yeah,
short time. And
probably for the
if the
short
specs
term.
get in there, yeah,
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 I can see it dropping down to $1,000 or high 900s,
would be a steal. Be an
and
absolute
then buying it
steal.
up.
If you could buy platinum at $900, and I'm loading up my boat. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So the World Platinum Investment Council
Good
issued a
source.
report called "Hydrogen in the USA." And
Ah,
so they pointed out that the Biden administration has um, put forth a plan to basically put $2 trillion into the economy in support of a transition to a clean energy economy. Um, th-
hmm,
in my mind, their position on platinum, or I'm sorry, on hydrogen technology isn't
right.
abundantly clear at this point, but it seems like a logical path for them to follow. Um,
Yes,
the
but it's government. So logic and government, that's kind of an oxymoron, I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. Well, they said that demand for platinum by 2030 was going to be between 300 and 600,000 ounces for the EU and China alone, and
okay.
it seems like the USA could add very very significantly to that number, and that's 9 years away. So that would be a big plus to demand, and that's why
Yeah.
a part of the reason that I remain long term favorable.
And,
Um,
and yeah, same with palladium too,
yeah,
absolutely. Same.
Yeah, and Palladium actually got kind of shellacked last week.
Oh, it got
Well,
killed.
on Friday, it was down 5.5% on the week. It was the second lower weekly close. You remember in the last show we talked about Palladium moving kind of sideways through the trend line. which suggested to us a little bit of downside potential. And
Technically, yeah.
it finally did kind of come on Friday.
Yep.
Um, the market is still expecting the palladium to remain in deficit in 2021.
Yes.
Haraeus says, that in deficit, but kind of closer to a balanced market than previous years. But I think you heard that it was going to be a bigger deficit from some other source. Is that true?
I have, and I think too. We're looking at COVID too now. If they can figure out how to get the inoculations out, and instead of, when they just turn it over to the private sector like they did in Florida and get it done. And I understand they're going to try to get it to Walgreens, which is a great idea because then it'll get orderly and it'll be done. So um, hopefully that will give a shot in the arm, literally, to cars and light trucks, and we will see an immediate upturn in demand. And thank God for our scrappers. A shout out to all our guys bringing in AutoCats and whatnot. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Demand is still good, and it will get better.
Yeah, and so the Haraeus report said that they anticipated primary supply going up 20% this
There
year
you go.
as South Africa came back online
Right.
and recyclers started ramping back up again. But get this, here's their predicted range for the year: 1900 to 2900,
Yeah, I saw that.
a
Yeah, we're gonna
thousand
make
dollar range.
not only that, we're gonna go higher than the previous contract high in history. But it's just a range. Don't worry, we aren't that bullish on it. Excuse me.
So,
You
so
know?
here's what I would say to our hedgers:
Okay.
2900, you be a seller, lock in your price.
Yeah,
1900, you
for
might,
at least a couple of years,
yeah,
right?
1900, you might want to be, locking in some of your purchases.
Oh, yeah, you might want to be buying all your AutoCats out there in the field, get bidding up as much product as you can. And probably all the way up to 22. I mean, you got 2, 3, 4, and then at that point, just ride it out. When you get close to that old cap, start looking to hedge, because you know what? There's more potential for it to go down than up at that point.
Yeah, yeah, I
So that's
agree.
how we make money. And
Hey,
by the way, speaking of making money, Rhodium, they're talking about Rhodium is going to exceed 1 million ounces in demand. I don't think there's 1 million ounces in the ground. All right,
nah,
we're this
not that they
is
found yet, anyways.
yeah, exactly. And so, in effect, Rhodium went, when we started talking about Rhodium at 14,000, Rhodium went to 21,000. I still think it could go to 25,000 without too much of a problem. So keep an eye on that market. That has been very interesting. Remember, we did a couple of shows on rare earths and how we felt that there was potential here for strong rallies in all those markets. And boy, have we seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Copper.
Dr. Copper.
Copper's in a corrective mode. It was
Yeah,
down
it is.
just over 2% last week. But again, as the world recovers, I think demand is going to remain robust overall. So my outlook remains favorable, and I think the general uh, strategy out there is to buy the dips. What do you think?
Pete, it's on China. Bottom line, China consumes 61 to 63% of all copper scrap and unrefined product now, and we will see them continue to pick up. It's interesting. I watched their last monthly numbers; they were down a little bit for the first time, but in the meantime, the reserves for the LME in London were their storage facilities were a little bit lower. So we had less on hand in the EU and less demand in China. It kind of tells me what happened. And I believe that you're 100% right. We could see sales of trucks and cars pop up 20% easily if the inoculations get done, and that is just going to put a tremendous strain on the copper market and our scrappers and our miners that work with us and refiners are going to really reap some benefits from it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Well,
Yep.
with that, my friend, I think we've covered everything.
I think so too.
This week is going to be exciting. So
Oh,
we'll
hang on.
be especially keeping an eye on silver,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And by the way, if you don't have a hedging account with us and you have metal, I would say give us a call and we can work with you to kind of pad in some of these profits because it's going to get real interesting in a hurry. And we still have some physical. We're fingers crossed. Hopefully, we can find some more eagles. They're getting pretty thin, but the director rider is said, he's doing his best to get product out, and it's a matter of shortage of workers is what it is. The pipeline's a little broken right now for getting it out, and hopefully he'll be able to fix that and get some product out.
right on. Well, with
Yeah.
that, I'm Peter Grant with Zaner Metals in Denver. Have a great week.
Pete Thomas, thank you for coming in. Give us a like and give us a follow. This will be in your mailbox every week. We'll try to keep you as informed as we can. Also, by the way, Grant on Gold is on Wednesday. It's a midweek recap of everything that happened up to that date. Very informative. If you get busy, if you miss what's going on, please look him up.